Hello viewers, welcome to K Diagnostics, Dio here. Today we have a 2014 Mercedes Sprinter with a 3.0 liter. The complaint on this vehicle is the sliding door is really hard to open. The door closes, but it's hard to get it to open all the way to the back. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to confirm the customer's complaint. After confirming the complaint, then we will talk about what we can do so we can fix this door that's not opening all the way. So let's close the door first. Its close is fine, but when you open it, it doesn't go all the way to the back. As you can see, that's all we get. So it's like opening halfway. You can close it, but when you open it, it doesn't go all the way to the back. It's supposed to go way back there to allow passengers to enter the passenger compartment. So basically at this point the sliding door is only opening halfway. So something is preventing the door from opening all the way. So right there, we have confirmed the customer's complaint. The door is not opening all the way. So now what do you do when your sliding door is not opening all the way on your Sprinter van? Well, I'm going to tell you what we're going to do so we can fix this. Right off the bat, I can see what's causing this sliding door to not open all the way. There is an electric chain over here under this step that guides the bottom of the door on a rail that's under the step over here. Well, right off the bat, I can see that this electric chain over here is not sitting on its rail. So this electric chain is broken. So this electric chain is what's causing this sliding door to not slide all the way to the back of the vehicle. So this electric chain over here is broken. And this is really common on these Sprinter vans. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you guys over here so I can show you the electric chain, and then we will replace it. Basically, this electric chain is jamming up on the rail under the step, which is preventing the door from sliding all the way to the back. I will bring you guys over here so I can show you the chain that's jamming up the sliding door, and then I'll show you what we can do to replace it. So now I'll bring you guys over here so I can show you the electric chain. Alright guys, so here is the electric chain. As you can see under this step, this chain over here is broken. Okay, so if you look over here, you'll see that the end piece of this electric chain is broken. So and this piece over here is broken. So this electric chain is not sitting on its rail anymore. So it's jamming up, which is preventing the door from sliding all the way to the back of the vehicle. So let's try. I'm gonna try to close this. So like right now, it's hard to close the door. So I'm gonna try to open it. Just watch that. You see that? So it's jammed up right now. Okay, so I can't open it. So it's jamming up right there. All right, so now what we need to do is we have to remove this step so we can get access to the electric chain. We're gonna remove the electric chain and then we will install a new one. Once we install the electric chain, this sliding door will be able to open all the way to the back of the vehicle. And as you can see, we just have a little bit of room over here, so the door is opening halfway. Okay, so in order to remove this step, we're gonna have to remove a couple of screws over here. So we have plugs that protect these screws over here so we can get this step removed. I don't know if you can see, there's a plug over here. There is another one. Let me show you where the other one is. So there's another one over here. So the plug over here is missing. So we're gonna undo this bolt. So there's a bolt down there. There's another one over here. There's one there. And then there's a fourth one over here. So once we remove these bolts, we're also gonna remove plastic panel. So once we get this plastic panel removed and this step removed, we will get access to an electric chain, and then we will disconnect an electrical connector that's behind this plastic panel. So there's an electrical connector behind here for the electric chain. We're gonna disconnect that, and then we're gonna remove this inside panel. So the panel for the sliding door, we're gonna remove this panel so we can get access to the other electrical connector of the electric chain. So at this point, what we're gonna do is we're gonna start by removing this panel first. I think it's gonna be easier if we start by removing this panel. So I will close the door all the way. We're gonna remove this plastic panel of the sliding door, and then we will start disconnecting the connectors on the other side of this plastic panel. So now let's do that. This plastic panel has plastic rivets that hold it on the sliding door. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna pry this up. So right there, just pry it outward. So right there. So as you can see, the panel is coming off. We're gonna disconnect this speaker. So these over here, these little plastic rivets, we have more over here. Okay, so there's another one over there. So right there. So I'm gonna lift this panel and get it out of the way. All right guys, so we got the plastic panel of the sliding door removed. So now the next step is going to be disconnecting this electrical connector. This connector here goes through the electric chain. So we're gonna have to disconnect this guy. So right there, that's disconnected. And then we're also gonna disconnect this cable over here. So we're gonna pry this down. So right there, just pry it down. So we're gonna have to separate this. So there's one cable over here that we're gonna have to separate, okay? So what we need to do is, I will sit you guys over here because I'm gonna have to use two hands to separate this one cable with these other two cables. So I'll sit you guys over here so we can get this cable disconnected. All right, so we're gonna disconnect this cable from the other cables over here. So basically you just pry this up. So right there. So there is a little plastic holder over here. So this over here, this piece holds this side of the cable in place. Okay, this is the holder. So it goes, this ball goes in here. Okay, once it goes in here, you just line it up and then it goes right there. Okay, so you undo. So this is just a cover, you know, to hold all the cables in place. So we're gonna undo this right there, and then the cable just comes out. All right, so this over here is the cable for the electric chain. So at this point, what we're gonna do is we're gonna open the door all the way. I mean halfway, because it's only going halfway. We're gonna open the door halfway, and then we're gonna undo the bottom bracket. Okay, we're gonna undo the bottom bracket for the sliding door. So now let's remove the bottom bracket of the sliding door. All right guys, so we disconnected the electrical connector of the electric chain and the cable. So we're good to go. So now we're gonna undo the bottom support of the sliding door. So once we undo this bolt, this bottom support over here has 3 torque bolts. There's one over here, there's this one, and there's another one over there. So we're gonna undo these 3 bolts. Once we undo these bolts, we will be able to feed this wire over here and the cable out. So we're gonna feed these out. Okay, once we remove the wire and the cable, so once they come out, we will be able to push the door all the way to the back. Okay, because what's preventing the door from sliding all the way to the back is this connection between the door and the electric chain under the step. And the door is actually connected with the electric chain by this bracket over here. So this is what's connecting the electric chain with the sliding door. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna mark this bracket to the door. We have to make sure that this bracket is lined up correctly when we put everything back together so that the door can work well. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this nail polish to put a mark over here between this bracket and the door. That way we're gonna put it back the same exact way as it's coming out. Okay, so we got a pretty big mark there. That's good to go. When we put it back together, we have to make sure that we line up that mark. So now we're gonna undo these 3 torque bolts. First one is out. Here comes the second one. So now we're gonna remove the last bolt. So right there, as you guys saw, the door is now disconnected from the electric chain. Alright, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to feed this harness. So basically I'm just getting this harness and this cable out. So right there. So now we can push our sliding door all the way to the back. So right there. So this over here, this bracket and the cable and the electrical connector, I mean this little wiring harness, will come as a unit with the entire electric chain. So now I'll bring you guys on this side so we can remove the step. So we disconnected the electric chain from the sliding door. We were able to push the sliding door all the way to the back of the van because it's now disconnected. So now the next step is going to be removing the plastic panel around the step. So this panel over here is going to be the next thing we're going to remove. So we're going to remove this plastic panel. Once we get this panel removed, then we will remove these bolts over here that hold the step in place. Okay, so now let's remove this plastic panel. This plastic panel has screws. Okay, there's one over here, there's another one on this end over here. So we're gonna undo this one and then it's just gonna pop out. And we're also gonna undo this bolt over here to get this plastic panel out. Okay, so I will remove those screws on each end of this plastic panel so we can get it out. So now let's get those bolts removed. Alright, so we're gonna remove this screw over here. Alright, so this is removed, so I'm gonna put it right there. So now we're gonna remove the one on the other side. So basically, after removing the screw, this panel can now come out. So now let's remove the screw on the other side. So this one is removed also. So now what we need to do is we have to undo this bolt over here. Once we undo this bolt, I believe there is another plastic tab or maybe another screw that holds it over here. So let's remove this so we can pry this plastic panel out of the way so we can get access to the other bolt. So right there, it looks like the bracket is actually broken over here. So there it is. Alright, so this plastic panel can now come out. So I'm gonna remove this. Alright, so we're gonna have to disconnect this electrical connector. So here is what we have now. As you can see, the plastic panel is removed. Okay, so now we're gonna remove all the bolts that hold the step in place. So this step now can come out. There's a bolt over here. There's another one in here. Actually, I'm gonna disconnect this electrical connector. Okay, so this is gonna get disconnected. So there's a bolt over here. There's a bolt over here. We're gonna remove this cap. Actually, let's do that right now. So let's grab something that we can use to pry this. So right there. Okay, so there's a bolt in there. So I don't know if you can see, but there's a bolt in there. Okay, we're gonna undo that one. Let's undo this cap. So on these ones, it looks like someone had already been here because they usually don't have a hole in the middle of the cap, okay? When I see a hole like this, this tells me that someone already removed these previously. So if yours don't have a hole, you can just drill a hole and pry them up, or you can actually drill a self-tapper screw into this plug and then get a pair of pliers and then pry this up. Okay, so that's removed. So I believe that's all. So we have bolts in there. It looks like there's water in there. So we're gonna use some sharp air to clear these holes so we can remove the bolts that hold this step in place. Alright, so we cleaned up these holes so we can get access to the bolts that hold the step in place. Actually, there's another one over here that I forgot to remove. So right there. So let's spray. So let's clean this one. So now I'm gonna disconnect this electrical connector right there. So I will show you the screws that I'm about to remove. So right there, as you can see, there's a screw right there. It's a torque, and I did disconnect this electrical connector. So this connector over here has a locking tab that you have to press. I'm gonna show you this. This is a little bit hard to do one-handed, but hopefully I can show you what I just did. So basically, I pressed this tab over here. You press it and then you pull. Press and then pull the connector back. And then there's another bolt right in there. Okay? So, alright, so I'm gonna seat you guys over here so I can undo all these bolts. So there's one over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, these are the bolts that we're gonna remove. So I'll seat you guys over here so I can get these bolts removed. Now, one thing I have to mention is that these bolts don't have the same length. Some of them are longer than the others. As you can see, this long one came out of this hole over here, so I'm just gonna put it up here next to this hole. So now I'm gonna remove, as you can see, this one over here is short. Let me bring you guys over here so I can show you. Alright, so the bolt that came out of here was a long one, so I'm just gonna put it over here. But this one is a lot shorter than that one. So this is gonna go, I'm just gonna put it right there next to the hole. Okay, just make sure you remember which one goes where. And they're not really hard to remember where they go. I mean, this one is a short one, it's gonna go right there. And then there's another one over here. This one over here is a long one. Okay, so I'm just gonna put it right there, kind of parallel to its hole. But even if you put a short one there, I mean, you're not gonna be able to get it tight. It's gonna be too short. So this one over here is a short one. It's gonna go right there. And then the last one over here that we already removed. Okay, so at this point the step should be able to come out. All right, so now I'm gonna lift the step. Actually, there's a bolt back here that I forgot to remove. Let me show you the bolt that I forgot. We're gonna have to remove this bolt over here so that we can remove the step. So there's another bolt back here that I forgot to remove. We're gonna have to remove this cap so we can get access to the bolt. So let's get this out. So right there. Now we're gonna remove this bolt over here. Alright, so the last bolt is removed. So now this step should be able to come out. So I'm gonna seat you guys over here so we can remove the step. Alright, so we got all the bolts for the step removed. So now we're gonna lift the step. So you just lift it and right there. So it's gonna come out from the front, okay? You have to push this plastic panel inward so you can get this step removed. So we got this step out. I'm gonna get it out of the way. So here is our electric chain. The electric chain is broken. Okay, so I can see this plastic piece that broke. I'll bring you guys over here so I can show you the plastic piece that broke on the electric chain. Alright guys, so here is our electric chain assembly. This roller over here goes on a rail under the step, okay? So if you look closely over here, you will notice that this thing over here, this piece is broken. There's a plastic piece over here. This plastic piece is what broke off, but this one obviously broke, okay? So we're gonna have to remove this plastic chain. Alright, so at this point, removing the plastic chain is really easy to do. So I'm going to undo these plastic holders over here that hold the wiring harness for the electric chain. So we're gonna undo this. We're just gonna pry this right there. We're gonna do the same thing on this one, and then the same thing on that one over there. So right there. So here comes the wiring harness of the plastic chain. So at this point we should be able to lift the plastic chain. So here comes the plastic chain assembly, okay? So we're gonna sit it over here on the floor. Alright, so right there, here is the plastic chain assembly. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna clean up this entire area because the plastic chain rides on this pad. So we have to make sure that this pad is clean before we install the new plastic chain. As you can see, there's actually a broken plastic chain link. Okay, so this is broken and it's actually the end piece. This piece over here is what broke. And this is really common on these sprinter vans. The other thing that I see is sometimes I see pens or pencils get jammed up in the rail and then they break the plastic chain. So this is really common on these sprinter vans. So let's get this out of here. I'm gonna get the air nozzle so we can blow off this dirt. We're gonna clean this up and then we will install our new electric chain. Alright, so we've cleaned up the electric chain rail, so now we're gonna install the new electric chain. Alright, so here's the box for the new electric chain and here's the part number. So we just got this from Mercedes. So we got a couple numbers on this box. So this one and then that one. So one of these two will be the part number, okay? So let's get this out of the box. So here comes our new plastic chain. So I'm gonna set it over here. Alright, so here's our new plastic chain. I'm gonna show you the difference between this plastic chain over here, the new one, and the one that's broken. So as you can see, over here on this plastic chain, the chain links actually come all the way up to the bracket. Okay, so this is on the new one. The links come all the way to the bracket. Now let's see the old one so you can see the difference. So here is the old one. So right over here, as you can see on the old one, the link that holds the chain on the bracket broke. Okay, so over here is the problem. As you can see, this link over here is broken. So this is why this chain got loose and it was jamming up the door. So as you can see on this one, the chain is not attached to this bracket, but when we look at the new one, you will see that on the new one, this chain is attached to the bracket. Okay, so this is the good one, the other one is the bad one. So we're going to install this chain now. So this chain is gonna go this way. Okay, this is how this chain goes. I hope you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, so the wire goes over there, and then there's a hook. This over here hooks on this. So this electric chain rides on this pad this way. Okay, it goes back and forth on the rail this way to allow the sliding door to open and close. Okay, you have to make sure that you hook this over here. Okay, so this has to be hooked up. Now we're gonna connect the electrical connector of the wiring harness of the electric chain. Alright, we're gonna make sure that the holders are in place. There's another holder that goes over here, and then this connector is gonna go right there. Alright, so that's connected. So at this point, this is ready to go. Like I said, don't forget to hook this up. Okay, oops, we don't want this to fall because this is plastic, so we don't want it to fall and break. Okay, so this hooks over here. You have to make sure that there's a little hole what it hooks onto. So you have to make sure that the other end of the plastic chain is actually hooked up on this pad, okay? And then this one is gonna go right there, okay? And then this roller is gonna go on the rail under the step. I will show it to you just in a few, okay? So everything is back on. The electrical connector is connected. So now the next step is gonna be installing the step. So I'll put this over here. I'll bring the step so we can install it. All right, so here comes the step. So the step is gonna go this way. Alright, so I'm gonna make sure that this electrical connector is not under the step. Alright, so I had to disconnect this electrical connector because you have to make sure that you feed the wire of this electrical connector over the step before the step can sit. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to make sure that the roller is on its groove. Okay, so at this point the step is sitting. So I will bring you guys over here so I can show you the groove where this roller goes. As you can see right now, this chain can slide in and out easily. Okay, so I will bring you guys over here so I can show you the rail where the roller slides into. Alright guys, so this roller goes into a rail over there, okay, in the step. So as you can see, this roller goes into this rail over here. So you have to make sure before you tighten all the bolts for the step that this roller is right there, okay, in the rail. Okay, so this is what guides this roller and it goes onto this rail over here. Okay, so now I'm going to sit this down. Actually, I'm gonna put a little bit of grease on the roller just to help it really easily. Okay, so I will do that and then I'll bring you guys back up so that we can put all the bolts for the step. So at this point the electric chain is installed. So I'll bring you guys back up after I put a little bit of grease on this roller. Alright, so I put a little bit of grease in the rail of the roller of this electric chain. So now I'm gonna make sure that I just sit it over here. So right there. The roller is installed in its rail, so we are good to go. So now we're gonna start installing the bolts that hold the step in place. Alright, so I got all the screws started, so now we're gonna start tightening them. Alright, so I've tightened all the screws that hold the step in place. So now we're gonna install the caps that cover these holes. So now we're gonna install these caps. So there goes one. We're gonna install one more over here. and then one over here, and then this one is gonna go over there. I mean, we had two holes that were missing plugs, so we're good. So what's next, guys? So the next step will be installing the plastic panel that covers this area. So I'll get that plastic panel so we can install it. So that's gonna go right there. Alright, so right there, our plastic panel is installed. So now I'm gonna install this bolt over here. Alright, so I will bring you guys over here so I can show you the screws that I'm about to install. Alright, so we're gonna install the one on this side first. There. So now we're gonna install the one up here. So right there. So this is installed. So now I'm gonna tighten this bolt. Alright, so right there, this is tightened. So we are making progress. We're almost done. So now the next step will be pushing the door up here to this bracket so we can install the bracket. But remember, we put a mark on the old bracket. So this bracket over here doesn't have a mark. Let me show it to you guys. So this bracket here doesn't have a mark. So we're gonna have to put a mark on this bracket, which is gonna be pretty much at the same exact location as the one we put on the old electric chain. Let me bring the old electric chain here so I can show you the mark that we just did. We're just gonna double check. We're gonna put the same mark over here. We're gonna line up the mark we're gonna put here with the mark on the door, and everything should be good to go. So I'm gonna bring the old electric chain over here. Alright guys, so here is the old electric chain. This is the mark that we put on the old electric chain. So we're gonna have to make sure that we put the same mark, so this mark over here, we have to make sure that we put the same mark on this bracket. So I will do that and then I'll bring you guys back up. Alright guys, we are making progress. We are winding down towards the last steps of this job. So I'll put a mark over here. So the mark I put here is at the same location as the mark we put on the old electric chain. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna push the door towards this bracket. Okay, so we're gonna push the door over here. So at this point, we're gonna make sure that our marks are lined up, and then we'll put the bolts and tighten them. So now let's do that. Alright, so here is our bracket. So basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna line up these two marks, and then we will put the bolt so we can tighten this bracket on the sliding door. So I will sit you guys over here so we can install this bracket on the sliding door. Alright, so we're gonna make sure that these marks over here are lined up. Actually, before we do that, we're gonna feed this wiring harness and the cable in the door. So these two guys will go in here. Alright, so I fed the electrical connector and the cable through the door. So now we can install this bracket. So this bracket is going to be bolted on the sliding door. All right, so we got the bolts installed. So now we're gonna line up the mark. I hope you can see there. So we got our mark lined up. So now we can tighten the bolt. So right there, as you can see, the door is sliding easily and freely, so that's good. Our marks are lined up, so now I'm gonna grab a ratchet so we can tighten these bolts. You don't want to go really tight on these. All right, so now we're gonna connect the electrical connector and the cable for the electric chain. All right, so now we're gonna connect this electrical connector of the electric chain wiring harness. So that's gonna go right there. So right there, that's connected. So we're just gonna hook it up there. So that's good. So now we're gonna connect the cable to the other cables. So now we're gonna connect the electric chain cable to the cables on the door. So this ball is gonna go in here. And then this is gonna go this way. So right there. Okay. So this is installed. So now, oops. It just came out. So right there. Let me make sure that this cable is on all the way. All right. So now we're gonna put this plastic cover that covers the entire assembly. So right there. Okay. And then it's gonna go over here. So right there. All right, so at this point the cables are connected. The electrical connector down here is also connected. So now what's next, guys? The next step will be reinstalling the plastic panel. We're gonna install the plastic panel that covers all these cables. So I will bring the plastic panel over here so we can install it. So here comes our plastic panel. We're gonna connect the speaker first before we install it. Alright, so these wires will go over here. This one is gonna go right there. And then the small one is gonna go over here. Okay, so we got the speaker connected. So now we're just gonna lift up the panel and make sure that these plastic rivets are lined up with the holes on the door. There's one over here, there's one here, another one there, and another one back there. Okay, so I'm gonna try to do this one-handed while I'm holding the camera. So just right there, push that in, push that in, push that one. Okay, so that's good. We're gonna do the same thing on the bottom. There's one over there, so there's one over here. So at this point we're just gonna push all these plastic rivets down. Okay, so right there, the panel is installed. So now let's go back outside and see if we're gonna be able to open this door all the way. All right, guys, so we are back outside the van. So now we're gonna verify our repair. I'm gonna open this door and let's see if this sliding door is gonna slide all the way to the back. Remember before, this door wasn't sliding all the way to the back. It was only opening halfway. So now let's see if this door is gonna slide all the way to the back. So right there, this is good, guys. This is a good sign. So the door closes there. So this is fixed, guys. The door is now sliding all the way to the back of the vehicle. Remember before, the door was only opening halfway. So the door was only opening up to this point. But now we can get it open all the way. And once it gets here, it locks. Then you have to pull the handle out to close it. Alright, so as you guys can see, this is fixed. The issue was a broken link on the electric chain. The broken link on the electric chain was actually jamming up the chain on its rail, which was preventing the sliding door from sliding all the way to the back. So that was the problem on this vehicle. I'm gonna leave it right over here, guys. I hope you like this video. If you do like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, give it a thumb down. But if you do, you gotta tell me why so we can make better videos in the future. If this is your first time here, subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell so you can get notified every time I upload a new video. If you have any comments, questions, criticism, leave them in the comment box. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.